And that's us live. So hi, once again, in clockwise order. Hi, Milbillie. Hi, Mark. And hi, Dr. Silkman. How are you all doing?
Very well, thank you.
Thanks.
Good. What time in the morning is over there for you, Milbillie?
5:33.
You are. That's still what you are, I'll tell you that much. I think I would be getting up at 5:30 to... And for you, Mark, in Sydney or near Sydney?
Yeah, 10:30 p.m. Tuesday evening.
So 10:30 must be about 10 o'clock for you, yeah.
10 p.m. over here. Correct.
Yeah. Excellent. I've got a couple of things I wanted to share with you. First of all, Milbillie.
Yes.
What's happening with Andy Colborn's civil suit at the moment?
Well, there's been 2 updated dockets on this case. The plaintiff, being Andy Colborn, argued that he wanted an evidentiary hearing, so it got scheduled for video conference. That was rescheduled, and now they're moving forward. As soon as another update comes to the case, I'll get an email, and I'll be able to let y'all know what's going on.
Awesome. Great stuff. So it seems pretty bizarre, doesn't it? How, his case has been so easy, if you like. It's just. Am I right in thinking that it's been incredibly easy? But there again, maybe that's how things should progress.
Well, it's not a criminal case. That's why. It's just civil.
Right. Okay.
Billy, can I just ask you, I'm just trying to think of concepts here. Given that the matter is a new matter, new in the sense that it hasn't yet gone to trial in any form, what's the purpose of an evidentiary hearing in that case? Or is it just...
Because what he's claiming happened and what Netflix is arguing, there's a conflict of interest or dispute on what each side is saying. So the judge had ruled, 3-4 months ago, that she sees nothing other to do than have an evidentiary hearing. And I looked at the trial exhibits that they're submitting for the plaintiffs, and they're using all the episodes from Making a Murder. They've also have Reddit posts as evidence.
Wow.
But the evidentiary hearing is what, to determine whether the evidence is admissible in a trial?
I'm assuming so.
Okay. So are both sides claiming that, I guess, evidence that's to hand may not be admissible?
And the last thing that I call Colborn had to resubmit some things because he did something wrong.
Okay. Yep.
Was this case at one point in the hands of William Griesbach, or have I got that wrong?
No, Griesbach would be the attorney, Michael Griesbach.
I'm Michael Griesbach, but I just wanted of William Griesbach. He's a judge, but he's had no input in this one at all.
No.
But yeah, as you say, Mikey G is pursuing this. I mean, is there a potential for this to go really bad from Andy Colborn having to get on the stand and testify and face lawyers?
It could be.
It's a risk you take.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
no, he's claiming that Netflix manipulated what actually happened to make him look like a bad person.
Yeah. It just seems so.
You couldn't, irrespective of the merits of that argument, you could say that about almost any piece of television or movies that's trying to portray a story, couldn't you?
Yep.
I mean, the thing is that they're allowed to edit their film. They don't, for example, when they play a clip of the phone call, they don't play it in full, do they?
All news TV shows, they do that. You sign waivers and they can use your footage and they can edit it out however they want.
Oh well, yeah. Okie dokie. I think that was all I wanted to ask about that. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mr. Drizzy.
One example before we move on.
Yep.
Have you ever seen a trailer for something like a movie, and then you go to watch the movie, and what they showed in the trailer doesn't really happen?
Yep.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll put in scenes that don't even appear in the final film.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just bits and pieces.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I want to show you a thing from, if I can find them, if I can remember where I put the damn things. Where would it be? What's it? Just bear with me. I'm going to remove that just for a moment. I need to search for this first one. What have we got here? Nothing. No, not there. Here, I think so. Yeah, here we go. And I'll come back down and pop that back in. And I want to get an idea of when that was. Just bear with me a sec. I want to get a date for this. Here we go. Here's message from Steve Drizzy. This was 30th September 2019. And it must have been just after the Supreme Court decided not to take on Brendan's case. And I'll just read it out. Thanks. I will. So?
I think, by the way, Paul, that was towards the end of June of 19.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this would have been me writing to him and him writing back. So this is him, possibly, yeah, you say a couple of months later. I know for a fact that both you and I and the dude, we were looking forward to going to Washington to go to the Supreme Court because it seemed pretty obvious that this case has to go to the Supreme Court, for Brendan Dassey. Did you get that sense at the time with all the certiorari's, all the amicus? With all the amicus briefs.
I mean, just on that point, I don't want to digress if you're trying to make another point, but the weight of evidence or the weight of presentation from the amici and also the arguments put forward and the circumstances where the Supreme Court's ruling on special care hadn't really been updated to a modern context or tested for a long time.
Absolutely,
that it would have been in the best interest of good law that the Supreme Court took that matter on, irrespective of whether it was for Brendan. So, and given all the people that piled on, all the good people that piled on to encourage that to happen, it was a reasonable argument that you'd think they would have taken it on. So, yeah.
Do you want to just quickly read this for me then?
Who? Me?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is from Steve Drizzy in reply to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Paul. I've been in this business long enough to know that the struggle for justice is a long game, not a short game. 10 years seems like a long time, and for Brendan it is. But many of the wrongful conviction cases we have been involved in have taken decades to unravel. I also know that dissents sometimes turn into majority opinions. People in power change. New advocates with new ideas emerge to bring new energy to the struggle. There are millions of more people who now understand why children are more vulnerable to police pressure than adults, and why they are more prone to falsely confessing when pressured by police. And information and knowledge is power. Brendan needs your support and the support of others now more than ever. Thanks again for your passion, and keep on keeping on. I need a wee break, but will emerge with renewed energy to continue the fight.
Okay. What I find interesting there is this people in power change. I get the sense, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, Steve Drizzen has been particularly vocal about the recent presidential election.
Yep.
He's.
Yes.
I can show you. I can show you one of his tweets. I've got it right up there, ready to go.
Yeah, but regardless who the president is, the president can't do anything for either of them because it's a state case, not
It's
a
a
federal
state.
case.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. And it's this here. He's been going on about. Have you heard about this? This press conference that Giuliani held at the Four Seasons.
Yes.
Yeah. And Steve, I never want to see the Four Seasons Total Landscaping or the Fantasy Island bookstore torn down. I've applied to the city for both businesses to receive historic landmark status. And if we go on this, here's the bit that he's on about. Let's have a look at this. On November the 7th, Donald Trump chose this site between between a pawn shop and a crematorium as one of the last gasps of the 2020 election, a press conference featuring an aging lawyer who'd been duped by a fictional movie character with a convicted sex offender by his side. Good things happen in Philadelphia. They had this press conference, didn't they? And did they get the wrong place? Did they go to the wrong place? And anybody any thoughts on that?
It would seem so, but I don't know.
No.
Crazy.
What struck me was it's to me it's quite funny. It's here in the UK we've got Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson used to go on various TV programs, and it's quite a funny character, right? He loves a good laugh about things, But this whole press conference, the fact that they've clearly messed up here, but they still won't accept. There's this cognitive dissonance. They cannot admit that they've got it wrong. Is anybody else in agreement with me on that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
we'll move on. I just wanted to show you.
Yeah, I mean,
it just struck me.
I think moving on is the best expression. So.
Yeah. Okay. As I said, I'm not trying to make this sound like like I'm in support of. Look, I'm from the UK. I didn't vote. I remember the last time the election was held, when it was between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and I was completely undecided, and I thought, well, maybe if somebody is going into the job that isn't doing it for the financial gain, as in Donald Trump, he might try and do some good. I just don't know.
A postal worker here got fired and arrested for throwing ballots in the garbage.
Wow.
How do they even get the possession of them to be able to do that?
Well, it was the guy the mail carrier that usually ran the route. I guess they're on vacation, so they had somebody fill in for them, a new hire, and a citizen noticed a bunch of mail on the ground in the garbage can, started going through it, and then found a whole over like 300 pieces of mail.
That didn't get delivered. You're saying, Milbillie?
Correct. It went from the post office to a garbage can. And the guy that is responsible for it, he lived right down the street from where they found the mail.
And how would the guy, I mean, if you think about it, how would the guy, if that was an intended reckless act, how would he know who he was affecting? He wouldn't know whether those 300 pieces of mails were, whether it was a partisan act or not. He wouldn't know who he was affecting. Well, that was just stupidity. So if he supported one side, he could have been throwing away ballots off his own supporters. So anyway,
unless he'd already opened them, but
but that doesn't tell you what party you support. These are the ones coming from the government to the citizens as a postal vote opportunity.
Well, it wasn't all ballots; it's other people's personal mail too. So we just took a whole bunch of it and just tossed it in the garbage.
All right. Okay. Let me just do this. Moving on, following on from our last video. By the way, I've tried to set up, as you know, live chats with guilters. There was one lady thought that she'd got somebody set up to come along and have a chat with us. That's since fallen through. I'm still trying to get Sean Reck to come on and speak to me. And Bose 12345, but he did send me a message, and I was gonna share it with everybody so that you could have a look at it. If I can find it, let me just think. Now it could be down here in the photos. Nope, it's not down there. So let me just quickly go here. Sorry, let me. Where did I put it? Right, I need to send it to myself as a photo. It was basically what it was. Okay. Rolly Johnson and Stephen Avery, they have a chat, don't they? When they always have several chats, but there's one in particular, isn't there, Milbillie? Do you know when this chat was? This phone conversation?
Which one?
The one with the when he talks about when he mows the lawn, the bullet casings fly everywhere.
I don't believe it was the first phone call with him. It had to have been a couple after. I don't know the exact date, but yes.
Can you just fill us in with a little bit of the sort of context of the conversation there, then?
Well, they're obviously talking about bullets, and Roland makes reference that he shot hundreds, if not thousands, of rounds out there shooting rabbits, and not what. And Stephen talks about having to pick up all the shell casings and throw them into the garage, because when he runs them over with the lawnmower, they go flying.
Yep,
excellent.
That's right.
Excellent. Okay,
and I think you're going to tell us, Paul, that your colleague or your guilter person says that wouldn't happen, that the shell casings would be too small to be hit by the mower blades.
Well, let's have a look.
That's
I'll pop up the it. See, trying to do things quickly. It just doesn't work, does it? You know, at least it doesn't work for me. Just bear with me. I had it up, and then it went in. So I need to click on that. I need to save image as, because I need, if I just pop it up as it is from Messenger, it's not big enough to see, and I can't then enlarge it, you know? Does that make sense?
I need to teach you how to use OBS.
You do indeed. Do you know what? The only reason I know how to use StreamYard and Discord and Hangout was because of the dude. Left to my own devices, I wouldn't have figured out anything. Mark, you know that's true, don't you?
Unfortunately, yes. So
okay, so I think I finally managed to get hold of this. So let's see if I can pop this up. If I go here, and if I go click on here, and there we go to pictures, and it's slow going. It's slow going. Yes.
Paul,
yes.
Paul, we're going to be here till next week.
I think so. Yeah. That's okay, isn't it?
I think we should start a little singing group, and while Paul's trying to get photos, us three can have a little sort of sing along. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With friends like you, and with friends like you. Okay, here we go. So, Milbillie, I'll give you honors if you want of reading
I think
through what.
You need to give him a lesson to him. I'm just going to encourage Milbillie to continue to make his offer that he gave you a few moments ago.
Yes, thank you. Here we go then. Here we go. Here's this message then from Bose 12345. Do you want to read it, Milbillie? Or
Picture the 22 long round Federal high power 50 round small box and oddest 100 cc 22 long rifle high power means hollow point. Yes, I know that. That's true, which quite clearly, if you under my lawnmower on concrete, you can see my lawnmower medium. Yes, but when you run in a lawnmower, you're not cutting concrete, for one.
yeah.
You'd be cutting grass.
And you can be assured that with the grass around Stephen's trailer would have been only mowed when it was at an almost when you got lost walking in it, right? So shell casings falling on the grass around there would have been sitting high in the grass anyway. They wouldn't have been sitting down on the ground. So because the casings are light, So
yeah, and
let me see if I can find this actual photograph for you.
At the end of the day, it's only speculation how those 10 or 11 shell casings got in the garage, right? No one is saying that Stephen Avery's lawnmower shot 11 shell casings into the garage, right?
No,
so,
exactly.
So it's a bit of a moot point, and
it's funny that they pick that to dispute of all these things in this case.
Yes, yeah.
But he was referencing something that I said. So, but yes, HP does have hollow point. Hollow points do come in 22s, but the beveling on the skull fragment was from a high impact round.
The other, I think, just very quickly with that, because my little comment is going to be like tangential, but it's interesting how a conversation can lead someone to a particular view. As Dr. Silkman says, there was no suggestion that the lawnmower fling these things into the garage. I mean, if you think about it in a practical point of view from what Stephen has said, he probably, was mowing the lawn. He went around and picked the stuff up, the casings that he saw in his hand, and just threw them up in the garage because it was the only bit that didn't have grass on it, right? So they didn't have to be flung in there from the lawnmower. He could have thrown them in by hand. So
you see, yeah, exactly right. And you see, that's the type of logic that Ken Kratz uses, right?
Yeah,
Ken Kratz would have said, do you believe that Stephen Avery mowed his lawn and 11 shells just happened to fall?
I think
type of crap.
Another jail call, you hear them talk. I think he was talking to Jody, and she referenced to the time that they were standing by the garage shooting at the burn barrel. Well, Stephen Avery's burn barrel has bullet holes all through it, And if you were standing at the garage aiming at the burn barrel, when you fired the gun, the casings would eject to your right, which could end up in the garage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll turn it on and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, there's the photo that he sent me just to show that these packets fit under the lawnmower. But the other thing, Mark, as you pointed out, the actual casings themselves, they would just lie in the grass. And as he's going along,
especially long grass.
Some of them might sort of drop lower down, but he's going to be catching with what was it, 3,000 rounds that Rollie Johnson had fired in and around that trailer.
Well, I'd suggest next time any of us go back out to the Avery property, let's look for some shell casings.
Yeah, but even Kathleen Zellner goes into the garage, doesn't she? And lo and behold, there's a tub, and what's it full of?
Shell casings.
Casings.
Correct.
There was probably what are the casings made out of? Brass? Are they?
Brass.
So is there some residual value in that?
Well, they smelt metal, could well be worth something.
They may, knowing the Averys being in the scrapyard, they probably would value that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And now the detective in me, even though I don't give any credibility to what this gentleman is saying, the detective in me in that lawnmower says, was the lever up high or was the lever down low?
I mean, we've all cut grass, right? And we've struck a small rock, and the rock goes flying like a bullet, right?
I had an experience. I was sitting on my friend's front porch while he was cutting his grass, and a rock came flying out the lawnmower and it bedded in the siding right next to my head.
Wow. Is that why you have that beanie on now? Is that covering a scar from lawn mowing?
But I mean, to try and argue that with him is pointless. The mere fact is that when the investigators went in the first time or several times, no one made any big deal about shell casings, right? Then all of a sudden they became relevant when Brendan said, "Oh yeah, we shot it 10 or 11 times, or whatever it was," and also don't forget they also missed item FK that was embedded in the concrete. And also they missed item FL. So much for them doing a thorough investigation, right? So it's a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the same way that you've got people denying that they went to the wrong place, it just struck me that the cognitive dissonance of, saying, I don't even get what Bose is actually trying to say, that Rollie Johnson and Steve, when they had this conversation about these shell casings lying off, is he trying to say that in this casual conversation, in this flippant moment when he talks about it, that somehow is evidence? What evidence? What Steve and Rollie Johnson are lying?
Well, to me, it's your classic straw man argument, right? He's trying to take you down a path that you don't need to go to, right? So what he's trying to do is to disprove that those bullet shell casings got there as a result of Stephen Avery mowing the lawn, right? So he's going to try and win the argument, which the whole argument is completely nonsensical, and hence proving that Stephen Avery fired the Marlin in the garage at Teresa Hallbach. So it's this convoluted logic. Be careful when you try and get in a debate like that, because you can't win because there's no logic to it. That's your classic Ken Kratz type of argument.
The placement.
And at the end of the day, it means absolutely nothing to the. It's a little bit like when he was doing this tweeting as if he was a crime scene forensic expert from Adelaide.
Yeah,
I take you've not seen him there, but he was trying to explain that
I've invited him to my house for a coffee, but
excellent,
no reply.
Dear. And he's trying to say that the reason that the bullet ended up on the pile of dust was because that it rolled there. It was vibrated there when they jackhammered the scene. You know?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the
day, you gotta remember,
yeah.
who suggested she was shot in the head? Brendan didn't say that. It was told to him.
Fassbender. We get.
Why are everybody from the Calumet County Sheriff's Department is going to their evidence storage facility while they're talking to Brendan Dassey? Then Wendy Baldwin goes to the Avery property by herself, and they come and all show up 2 hours later.
Yep.
If they were doing a thorough analysis of that garage, as they were meant to, they would have found spent cartridges.
No,
they would have.
Why are they going to evidence? Why are they going to the evidence storage place and then to Avery's?
Yes.
During his interrogation.
Yes.
You can see Mark. He gets a bunch of phone calls during that, and he just lets them go to voicemail.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's when they exit the room.
The same thing happened when you mentioned about the knife in the that they snuck under the seat of the RAV4.
Oh yeah, Bill Tyson. Bill Tyson went to go search to see if the knife was still there. The whole car had already been processed by the crime lab.
That's right. And it's the same ridiculous situation whereby months later you have to go and re-swab the RAV4 underneath the hood latch. You would think that the crime lab would have done that, a thorough analysis right at the beginning.
Why didn't they search the Wrangler hood too? He touched that allegedly too.
Yeah. Correct.
I've got a question.
Or the hood latch release lever as well, let alone that.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
Or the inside of the door handle, the door outside the door.
You see, yeah. I mean the thing that got me. Yeah, the thing that got me is that the state was saying that Stephen was actively bleeding.
Yeah, he's actively bleeding, right? Yeah. He has to put the key in ignition, and then he has to put the gar in, unless they're trying to say that no.
Yeah, no, that's correct. The whole if you're
going to take the time to use your left hand to put the car in gear, you do the same thing to start the car, or you'd be wearing gloves.
Correct. So, if he was actively bleeding, the Toyota RAV4 would have looked very much like his Grand Dam, droplets of blood.
Or his truck. His truck had blood all over it, too.
Yes, correct. So the thing is that Stephen was selectively actively bleeding. 6 or so drops, and that's it. Clean. Everything is clean.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, because I don't know if this was ever tested, but it was a tweet by TikTok Manitowoc to do with the fact that, and I'm not going to waste time trying to find it. It's a lot easier for me to just explain what it was. Basically, during Brendan's confession, he talks quite clearly about him and Steve getting the old hood and putting it on the RAV4. So you've got an obvious source of DNA on the hood that they used.
Yes.
So what was that ever tested for DNA prints or anything?
The investigators looked around the Toyota RAV4. They looked at all the surroundings. They couldn't find any evidence of blood or hair or fibers, nothing. Now, whether they tested
they also brought Loof. They actually brought Loof back over where the RAV was after just the whole way they did everything is just retarded.
Yes.
So when it comes to the dogs.
Yes, they weren't able to get anything, Paul, useful outside the Toyota RAV4. Like if Stephen was bleeding, you would have maybe thought he would have dropped some blood outside the Toyota RAV4 around the surroundings.
Yeah,
they found no evidence of that. Nor I don't think they found shoe prints. But their defense will be that it likely rained during the time period, so it could have maybe dissipated the actual footprints. But no, they weren't able to get anything useful print-wise outside of the Toyota RAV4.
Another question then, and I got this earlier today, and it's quite a good one. But I think we got one or two terms confused. I got a question, Paul. Is it true that Eric and Bernie got the film book Make the Girls Cry for Brendan to watch when they had him alone at Fox Hills before they arrested him? Is there any knowledge of that?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
The actual film is called Kiss the Girls.
Exactly, it's called Kiss the Girls. Yeah. What's it? Georgie Porgy, Pudding and Pie, Kissed the Girls and Made Them Cry. Have you got the same?
I think Barb once responded to a message, and
Right.
he definitely, I believe, I've got to check it again. He definitely read the book and he definitely saw the film.
Yeah.
And that film was being shown in Wisconsin on cable at that time, and Fox Hills had cable TV.
Yeah.
Because Fassbender kept on saying, replay the video in your head. Right, Milbillie? He kept on saying, replay the video in your head, which is a very interesting term to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. That is very interesting. Yeah. So they probably did then allow him to watch, as you say, Kiss the Girls at Fox Hills. Yeah. Yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, certainly reading the book. Are we surprised that if that book had been available for him to read via one of his older brothers?
Was that book was available at his school? We checked.
Oh, right.
The film and the book, the DVD and the book were available at his school library.
Wow.
And he told his mum that he definitely read the book, and I believe, don't quote me, that he saw the film that he saw the film as well. And Bron
was the book suitable for a teenager to read?
It's pretty full going, pretty full on. But
so you wonder why a school would have it in their library?
Yep. Well, I suppose for the older, maybe year 11, year 12, that really wouldn't have been suitable for someone his age. But he definitely could have sneaked in the film, right? Especially if his older brothers had borrowed it or pirated or whatever, or it was on cable TV. But there are fundamental differences between the book and the film, right? And one of the key things he mentioned was the cutting off of Teresa's hair, right? And that was only in the film, not the book.
I don't know about you guys, but I certainly remember being at school. Every time you went to up a year, you went to the classroom that the previous people had been in, and some of the lads at the school knew exactly which pages of certain books were the interesting bits, the raunchy bits, like even raunchy bits within the Bible, and certainly within the biology textbook. People knew where this stuff was, and
Paul,
clearly,
are you trying to what are you trying to confess to us, Paul? Come on.
Well, no, it's
exactly.
just the fact that this is something that kids do at that age, don't they?
Yeah.
If they've got something interesting and slightly shocking and stuff, they'll more than happily share it with other people, won't they? That was the point I was trying to make. And clearly, some of the lads in my year who had got older brothers, they'd said, "Oh, this is the good bit in this book, and that's the good bit there." They knew exactly where this stuff was.
The book is full on. I've read the book. I read it with Bron. It's very full on. There are some passages which are very disturbing, but I would say that you discover that actually Brendan Dassey is a voracious reader. He reads a lot. Right? I never really thought that was the case, but apparently he does. He while in prison he reads voraciously.
Right.
Quite a few books per week. I was very surprised by that.
Wow. Okay. One final question, which I don't know if you managed to catch. I did a thing where, what was it? Yeah, I read an article called "The Real Horror Behind Making a Murderer," and it was actually an article done by somebody who says that, Steve Mendon, as far as he says is concerned, they're quite possibly guilty. In fact, he doesn't say quite possibly. He says, they're clearly guilty. But even he, this guilty is that, the horror of all of this is the trial that they received. It was just, it. I don't know. I don't know quite how to.
One of the things that I find interesting about those types of comments is they're given without remembering one really important thing in any justice system, and that is the presumption of innocence. You can't really say he might be guilty, right? Mm. If there's a might there, you haven't satisfied the test of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really important that any doubt should be of that type that would say he might have done it. Well, there's like an alien might have done it, right? Should bring you to the conclusion that he is not guilty. And we should be laboring that fact, not that he might be guilty, right? Quite apart from my personal view that he's not guilty at all. But we should never forget the presumption of innocence is a benchmark over which all discussion should sit. So,
well, exactly that. It struck me that even though he thinks, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, he thinks that Steve is guilty. The thing that struck him as being the most horrible thing about making a murderer was that he didn't receive a fair trial. When you've got guilties,
but that's
even admitting that there was no fair trial, was there?
The absence of a fair trial is that very point.
Yeah,
you can't have pieces of a pie that are good and others that are bad. Like the absence of a fair trial makes him not guilty, irrespective of anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like a construct of any Western justice system.
Yeah.
The right to a fair trial.
Yeah.
And was on that point. If anyone believes on any other level that he didn't get a fair trial, you're saying he's not guilty. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be a subsequent discussion about, well, he might have done it, but I don't think he got a good trial, a fair trial. That's just not. It's incongruous and should never be thought like that.
Then why does Dean Strang answer the way he does?
He's being cautious, isn't he?
Well, he asked Jeffrey if he thinks Stephen Avery's innocent. He says yes. You ask Dean Strang that same question, and he tiptoes around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dean has a style about him. With due respect to Dean, who I have a lot of regard for, he has a style of saying things that is very obtuse and can leave you with a confused idea of what he really thinks.
Yes.
And I think that's just his style. I don't know how he's feeling inside, but you're right, Milbillie. It's very ambiguous.
That also came across when he was questioning a lot of the witnesses as well. You know, he was sort of like build up a story and we're all there. Where's the killer blow? Where's the killer blow? And then just go, oh, okay, and just let it go.
Yeah.
He didn't deliver those punches. Look what Kathleen, as opposed to what Kathleen Zellner's doing, right?
Yeah.
And I think Buting, in my opinion, did a better job at questioning some of the witnesses. But I don't think Strang went far enough, especially questioning Eisenberg. Some of those guys were let off the hook, in my opinion.
Well, Eisenberg,
that famous,
for me, Sturdivant. Sorry, Mark, carry on.
That quite famous statement Dean says, so famous I can't remember it, but it's basically talking about how the police officers, I'm going to just throw in a few words and you'll remember it for me. Police officers aren't saying that he's guilty because, what does he say? Because they believe he's guilty because they want him to be guilty. I forget how it goes.
They don't frame him because they just simply want to frame him. They're framing him because they think he's guilty.
Yeah.
that's
Well, that to me, that's the same. That's the same incongruent argument in my view. So.
Yep, and I was going to say, Mark in his book calls it noble cause corruption,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
in other words, the cops are going, oh, we have a Toyota RAV4 found outside Stephen's property. We have human cremains found outside Stephen's property.
We have a
Teresa
crime
Horbuck went to Stephen
outside
Avery's
Stephen's
property. Yeah, why don't we assist the investigators and bring everything back? That's it.
Yeah, and we don't really want to be corrupt, but we're going to have to be because we believe him to be guilty, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's just like, oh my God, seriously.
Officer take evidence home with them before they turn it in.
Correct. Yep, absolutely correct. So, in other words, they're just helping the investigators along by pointing all fingers to one person only. So, tunnel vision, confirmational bias from day one.
There's corruption in the trial process too.
Correct.
Oh God.
Every case from day one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just the way the media portrayed everything.
Correct.
They named Stephen Avery 16 hours after she's reported missing.
Yes.
They don't mention the other two people she went to see that day. They say, oh, she went to 2 places in Manitowoc, one of them being Stephen Avery.
Correct.
Mention Zipper ever.
Milbillie, could I ask you a question because you're resident of Wisconsin? Do you have a good recollection of the circumstances at the time in 2005 to 2007 about this matter and how the media portrayed it firsthand?
Well, it was like when it first came on the news, I was getting ready to have a kid, so I was focusing more on that. But I did catch the news a lot, and every day it was the same thing. Missing girl. Then it was Stephen Avery. And then March happened, and Stephen never had a chance. Never. The way the media portrayed everything. Like, there were a few unbiased reporters out there, but majority of them were not on Stephen's side.
Yeah.
Do you think that was because they, as John Frack once put it, I believe he said, that reporters up there, you're not going to go to Wisconsin and tell people in Wisconsin you've got a rubbish football team. The reporters there are not going to tell their viewers, their listeners, what they don't want to hear, which is, there's bits about this case that don't fit right. They're quite happy to present the state's point of view because that's their readership, that's their viewers' opinion as well, and
their sponsors, who provide the advertising revenue, right?
Yep. Just going back one, as you were saying about Dean Strang and his the way he questioned people. Can you remember with Tom Sturdivant? Tom Sturdivant actually says, "Well, it was my fault that no photographs were taken of the remains."
Unbelievable.
And Dean says, "Well, I'm not here to attribute blame."
Why not?
I thought that. I thought that was a very strange thing,
Yeah, but what is frustrating is that Strang, especially, he danced around a lot of the topics instead of going straight for the jugular. He was just tippy-toeing through a lot of the stuff, and you could tell with what Sturdivant said, "I'll take the blame for this, I'll take the blame for that," because Strang asked him, "Did you have a coroner there?" No. Did you have a forensic anthropologist there? No.
Yeah.
Did you take any in situ photographs? No. And you're thinking, what the hell? And yet, Sturdivant just said, "Yeah, blame me for everything."
Well, the next
And that's
question,
ridiculous.
probably should have been, and forgive me, it may have been because it maybe the transcript was, have you ever been to any other crime scene where none of those things occurred? Right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to isolate this as being a special. Stephen's case was treated in a different manner to normal.
Yep.
So,
Well, it's like when they're cross-examining Tyson about him babysitting. Ask, have you ever had to do this before? No. Well, why were you required to do that? If these officers weren't supposed to be there, why not just have them there?
Correct.
I mean, it's not like they were short on people. You know how many?
No, exactly right. None of those Manitowoc people needed to be there. None of them.
Only two.
Yeah.
Link and Colborn. Those are the only two that were involved in the deposition of Stephen Avery's case.
Yeah.
Nobody else was involved but those two officers.
Yeah.
One final question from me.
Can I ask a question before you ask your final question?
Yes.
I'm interested in each of the three of yours opinion about the statement that Tom Fallon made during the course of Stephen's trial, where he made almost a half threat against the defense, saying that if you're going to make accusations about the planning of evidence.
Yeah.
Why do you think he made that? Why I perceived that as a threat, and I didn't, and the Judge Willis said nothing about it, which I would have thought was a very improper act of a judge not to pull him up on that. But why do you think he said that, and what was his intent in making that statement? Paul.
Well, I think that it sums up the character of the guy. I think he wants to be one of these, seen as this very aggressive prosecutor.
Do you think he had something particularly in mind when in saying that? Other than to be a bit of a bully. Other than that,
I think there is certainly, yes, there is a bit of a threat there. That they do so at their peril.
Yeah, what does that mean in a practical sense?
Well, to be in peril.
Milbillie, what do you think he meant by you do so at your peril? At whose peril?
You could take that. It could mean anything. I don't know.
What do you think? It was a threat against the defense counsel?
Against their careers, maybe?
That was yeah. What about you, Dr. Silkman? What do you think was that?
I see it on multiple levels. Fallon, Kratz and Garn were disgusted that Stephen put forward a defense in which he was actually naming certain police officers, right? Mm-hmm. And so the way I interpret it was Fallon goes, all right, you want to challenge the state and the law enforcement officers of the MTSO, you do so at your own peril, because the state, they're the ones that hold all the evidence, right? And I personally believe, this is only my belief, they knew what the answers were going to be of those swabs before the FBI tested them.
The last thing the jury heard was Kratz's rebuttal to this Stephen's final statement.
Yep.
So what do you think stuck in their mind the most?
Correct.
Kratz went over everything that they were arguing. Don't worry about the bones in the quarry. Don't worry about the key. So if the key was planted, you're going to say that your cop killed this lady?
Yep.
Correct. So in other words, they got down and dirty, right? They got down and dirty. They said, right, you name these two cops, these two good cops. Well, then you have to assume that these two cops killed Teresa Horbach. And the defense said, we're not saying that. But as Milbillie just pointed out, the jury would have heard that and thinking, oh, my God, imagine if I say that Stephen Avery is not guilty. Potentially, those jurors could be harassed later on.
Yeah.
So herein light, if I would have thought, I know this not to be reasonable now, given what we've seen, that a proper independent judge would have stepped in and called that statement to account. Because it brought nothing to the evidence of the case. So why was it allowed to be made, right?
But Judge Willis, he was very ineffective.
Yes.
And Fallon, he controlled the courtroom. Him and Kratz, They controlled the courtroom.
And Fallon at that time an assistant attorney general for the state?
I think he was. Yeah, he had a very high up position.
Yeah, so he would have been highly regarded by the judiciary at the local level.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
He knew all the laws.
Yeah.
He was very, very, very clued on.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, sorry I interrupted your final question.
No.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Just one observation, though, going back to what you were saying about, you have to believe that young cops killed Teresa Holbach. Unfortunately, Ken Kratz has a very good way of saying what's actually true, but trying to present it in a way as if it's almost comical. It could well be. We know that Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department have an assassination unit that meet regularly to discuss whether it would have been easier to frame or kill Stephen. So I'm still of the opinion that it's razor. Who were the ones that were going to benefit most from Teresa's demise? Sheriff's Department. Yeah,
exactly. It's interesting, Paul, what you were saying about, and Dr. Silkman and Milbillie about the statement that Fallon was making about the NCRATs about you have to believe that your own police officers had carried this out, which was in effect verbatim that happened in the jury room by some of the less than independent jurors, right? Threatening the other jurors, as we've discussed in the past about if you don't think Stephen Avery did it, you're saying your local cops did it and you won't want to be living in this town if you say that. So that's kind of just echoing the words of Ken Kratz inside the jury room. And also, Jerry Pargle, who should never have been anywhere near the jurors, hanging around at the after the end of the deliberations and the evening in the restaurant there in Chilton. I mean, what sort of presence does that show those jurors, right? He's the sheriff of the county standing in the same room.
Well, look what they did to Stephen right before they talked to Brennan on 27th. They threw him in the hole.
Yeah.
Said he was suicidal.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Stephen took out lawsuits against Kratz, Wiegert, and Fassbender. They're all thrown out.
Yeah.
Now, Stephen's tried everything. And he had nothing until Zellner took his case. Yeah. Thank God for making a murderer.
And I mean, and making him. Thank God for making him a murderer in many ways, many ways. But it shed such a light on
the justice system.
Correct. For the world to see, let alone for their own citizens to see. It's frightening, really.
Yes.
Final question, and then I'll let you guys go. It struck me that obviously Tom Fallon, famous lines, innocent people don't confess. And I just wonder if anybody knows of any case ever where somebody being put on trial for murder and having given a confession, whether it was recounted or not, because most of the time, obviously, if it's a false confession, you're going to recant that confession. Whether there's ever been in the history of America a trial where the jury has actually believed that was a false confession and not found the defendant guilty, having given, as I say, a confession. I can't imagine that there ever has been, has there?
I don't know the answer to that, but my guess is most of those sorts of deliberations happen in pre-trial hearings where the confession is not allowed to be entered into evidence because the judge sits back and goes, this is not reliable, we can't have it. So, which is what would normally happen. Not in this case, of course. But I don't know the answer to your question, Paul. So
yeah, I do know this, of course, that had Brendan been successful in the en banc hearing or at the Supreme Court level, he would have been the first person exonerated based purely on the science of false confessions. Although there's debate as to whether Hugh Burton was the first one ever to.
Then they would have became law.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
That's another problem they were worried about.
Yeah, that would have set a very dangerous precedent as far as they were concerned.
Well, that's what Judge Hamilton said.
Yeah,
right. Judge Hamilton was very critical because he was saying, "Well, what do you want the police to do now? Change the way they interrogate." So if Brendan had won, what the two gentlemen have said, potentially that could have meant a change in law.
Yeah,
in the way the read technique can or cannot be used, especially in young children who are very, very vulnerable. And Judge Hamilton was having none of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not.
And we're just one in that 7-person deliberation. There was just one vote away for it being totally the opposite way.
Yeah.
Right. Just one vote.
Correct.
That's just remarkable.
And it was strange how two people that you think would have been on Brendan's side, at the last minute, one of them retired and one of them decided that they weren't going to be involved or something like that. I can't remember exact details, but there should have been 9 judges and you were down to 7.
Correct.
7.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Very, very, very bizarre.
And all they needed was a draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. A draw would have got them over the line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and added to that story is not just, if you like, that they lost that vote 4-3, was the very powerful and compelling minority opinion that was given as well by the judges. Was it Wood or Roper? I forget which one wrote the minority opinion. But yeah, that's right. They both had something to say, but basically defined it as the most gross miscarriage of justice they'd ever seen. I mean, this is someone who's sitting on the bench, right?
Yeah.
So this wasn't, okay, we differed on a few points. This was emotionally 180 degrees away from the majority opinion.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
but
that's
the surprise.
compelling.
Yeah, sorry, Mark. The surprising thing is how you can have judges diametrically opposed, completely.
I know. Yeah.
Some judges get it, others don't get it at all.
Exactly.
And that's the scary bit. Judge Duffin got it. He got it.
Yeah.
But Brett Schimmel said, no, he didn't get it. And so he persisted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Final thoughts, guys. And then we'll let you go. Thoughts on, how, for example, how long to this evidentiary hearing? Do you all think it's going to go to that, Milbillie?
I don't even know who the judges are yet, so I have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
3 of the 4 judges have prior history with Stephen Avery. The only one that doesn't is Davis.
My feeling is, even though history might tell me otherwise, I cannot see the appeal court dismissing the petition.
No.
I can't see that at all. And if they did, it would be you could only call it corruption, because Stephen's entitled to the preliminary presumption that the evidence is valid. And so the minimum he should get is an evidentiary hearing, an absolute minimum. But it could go all the way to a new trial or even just released. So I'm confident something's going to happen in a forward step. As to when, I think there may well be a decision before Christmas and some activity in the first part of next year as far as an evidentiary hearing, probably a February, March type thing, I would have thought.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same type of opinion as well. I recently saw a documentary on Netflix called Trial 4.
Yes.
About Sean Ellis.
Yes.
And I have a feeling Stephen may end up in the same situation as Sean.
Yeah,
as in they're going to release him with the proviso that everyone still thinks he's guilty. because of a miscarriage of justice. You know, the way the trial was conducted, he'd never received a fair trial.
I couldn't help but make many touch points on comparison between Stephen's circumstances and Mr. Ellis's circumstances.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Really quite interesting.
But also, sorry, Mark, the other thing was the underlying politics of, elected DAs and how the DA that was sitting had to usurp the incoming DA so that she couldn't make a ruling on the case.
Yeah, that was disgusting, wasn't it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So the current DA just before that had decided he wasn't going to put himself up for re-election.
Correct.
But he still had 2 months of time to go even after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And decided to resign straight away. So they appointed an acting DA, for want of a better term. And he came up with this momentous decision with only being in the job for like 4 weeks. If that wasn't a piece of construction, nothing is. So. And
I have a feeling that's what's happening in Manitowoc. They're coming up with some. They're coming up with some type of deal that everyone looks good on their part, so no one gets a civil lawsuit. And mind you, Sean was in prison for 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stephen has spent longer when you accumulate both terms together.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to come up with a Sean type of situation whereby, due to technicalities, we're not going to retrial Stephen. However, we know he did it.
Yeah, I mean, how disgraceful is that, by the way? Talk about yet again an example of destroying a man's presumption of innocence, right?
Shocking.
It's just unbelievable that they keep on doing that same behaviour. And interestingly, as you say, one of their arguments they said was, we believe he's guilty, but because of the passage of time, we don't think we can successfully argue it. I mean, that's seriously.
Yeah.
But the underlying thing for those people, I don't want to give too much away, but there's one key word: corruption. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. And it's protection of corruption, right? Mm-hmm. And Sean was a pawn, right?
Well, I've been working on another case. It's unsolved. It involves multiple murders and disappearances, and I believe it's a police cover-up too.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, same as the murders in the bayou.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
The women. Yeah. All those girls.
Yeah.
Dr.
What was really
remind
strange
me
was...
what. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, you carry on, Mark. You're the guest.
Dr. Silkman, remind me what state Mr. Ellis was in. I forget what.
I think it was the Boston.
Oh, there was Massachusetts. That's right.
Yeah, Massachusetts.
I think so, and it involved the Boston.
Yeah.
That's right.
What those police officers were doing was what happened in New York in the 70s.
Corruption.
Unbelievable. Yes.
Yeah.
So they had
Sussex County, Boston, Essex County, New York.
Yes. They had to shut down the case real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
and what was going to be found out was at the end, we were going to find out who were paid, which witnesses that testified were going to had received reward money. Reward money.
They lost the information.
I think that's where they decided we're going to cut our losses now.
Correct. Yeah. So it's basically, you're right, Paul. It's the lesser of two evils, because if they get investigated any further, there'll be people sitting in prison. So they said, we'll stop it right here, boys.
Yeah, I mean, money. Whatever civil cases in Stephen's circumstances arises, money will solve that. But none of them want to be sitting, in orange jumpsuits. So
correct.
No.
Correct.
Other than Milbillie, I don't know whether Milbillie is trying to create a prison vibe in the discussion tonight. So he's got the orange going there. So I think it's orange. So. Yeah, you should actually, Milbillie, you should have as your next green screen backdrop some cell bars, right?
All right.
And that outfit, right?
I'll put the cell bars in front of me.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. On that happy note, we shall say cheerio. So, guys, we'd just like to say cheerio, and we'll thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. I have been keeping a track of it, but I'm going to let you guys go, and I need to crack on as well.
That's with a K, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night for me.
And it's bye-bye for one-eyed Mr. C.
See you guys.
See you later.
All the best.